एंड वी इटल मैं बोलती रहती हूँ, इटल बी ओनली तुम और मैं बुड्ढा बुड्ढी रह जाएंगे घर में.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to Parenthood. I'm Neha, a fellow parent, a listener, a question asker. And this is our shared space to slow down, tune in, and listen to the real lived experiences of parenting. Every week, we'd sit with someone who's walking this winding path of being a parent with all the joy, fear, exhaustion, growth, uncertainty, and deep love that it brings. We talk about what's working, what's not, and everything in between. This podcast is not about perfect parenting advice. It's about real life. It's about building a life while raising a little human, or in today's case, a not so little one. My guest this week is someone who's lived a rich and layered parenting journey across countries, cultures, and some deeply personal trials. Meghna Kulkarni is a working professional in the FMCG sector, a partner of 27 years to her college sweetheart Prashant, and a mother to 18-year-old Ishan. But Meghna's story isn't just about timelines and milestones. It's about resilience, the kind you don't know you have until life asks it for you. When Ishan was just a toddler, Meghna's husband was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. What followed was a period of caregiving, uncertainty, and deep emotional juggling, all while parenting a child too young to understand what was going on. Since then, they've lived in London, moved to Singapore, and more recently returned to India in the middle of a global pandemic. Through all the shifts, Meghna has held her ground gently, quietly, with her feet rooted in love and her eyes always on the long view. Today, Meghna joins us not just as a mother or a wife or a professional, but as a mother, as a woman who's lived through big changes and has taken time to reflect on them. Meghna, I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
And then thank you, Neha, for inviting me. And as I was saying to you earlier, I'm very happy to share my life experiences. If that's, even one person gets helped by what we have gone through as a family, or I've gone through as a parent and a wife, I think, it's worth it. Your life experiences and all the gray hair you've collected along the way, it's worth it.
Yeah, that's so generous of you. Thank you so much. And let's start with you as a
Sure.
person before the roles. If you had to describe yourself in just three words or phrases, things that feel true to who you are, what would they be?
I think I am extremely resilient.
Mm-hmm.
I'm someone who will persevere no matter what. And I think, I am a kind of person who is extremely loyal and will, do whatever it takes for family.
Wow.
So
Talking of family, tell us about your family. What's your world made of? And I am very inspired, Prashant, 27 years, whole lifetime together. How did you two meet? How has your relationship evolved over time?
So, as you know, that Prashant and I were really babies when we met. So we met at IHM Mumbai. I was 18, he was 19, and about a year and a half after I joined college, because he was a year senior to me,
Yeah.
we started dating. And then, since he was obviously a year senior, he passed out of college a year ahead of me, and he started pursuing his dream of being a chef, and he joined Oberoi's, and he was doing his training while I was still finishing my course at Mumbai. And then, as luck would have it, I ended up getting through Oberoi's as well.
Wow.
And yeah, we both our career journey started with the Oberoi's, and then very quickly. I was 22, he was 23, we got married. And today when I look back, I asked my parents, what the hell were you guys thinking? Allowing 22 and 23-year-old to get married. But I think it comes from a space where we were mature enough, we were sure enough, And then we came from very similar backgrounds. So his father is a doctor in the Air Force. My father was a doctor in the Army. They
Oh,
knew each other since before we were even born, or they were even married. So
wow.
I always say, if our parents had to look for a spouse for us and it was to be an arranged marriage, they wouldn't have found anything different. They would have exactly chosen what we chose with each other. So I think that kind of gave our parents, some assurance that we know what we are doing, because we came from such similar backgrounds, and we've grown in a similar environment. And I always say we thank Oberoi's, because they used to give us accommodation as married couples. So that's how we were able to get married. So yeah, we got married in 1998, and then that's when we started our married life in Mumbai. We continued working for Oberoi's for a while, and then I moved jobs. And in 2001, we decided to go to Spain for a short stint.
Ah,
So Prashant opened an Indian restaurant in south of Spain,
wow.
and we did that for a year. It was really an amazing experience. Spain was great, and living like 1 minute away from the Mediterranean Sea was really great. But at the same time, the business there is very seasonal. So in the summer, it's bustling and there's people and there's excitement. But come winter, it's really boring. And as 28-year-olds, we were like, oh God, this is feels like we are retired already. So, we said, no, 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 this is not for us. So we came back, and then we moved to London, where we spent 10 years. And that's where our first car, first house, first child, everything, all of us kind of happened in London. So London is almost like a second home for us, in that sense. And that's when our son was born in 2006. And really, from that point on, after his birth, is when Prashant started falling sick. And
Mm,
it took about 1.5 years for him to be diagnosed, that it was cancer, because the symptoms never you don't actually really know what the symptoms should be, because all it was, he was itching in his arms and legs, and we were kind of going through gluten allergies, skin biopsies, and then it just could not be caught. We did so many blood tests at that time and going to specialists, but we just couldn't figure out what was happening. And then 1.5 years later, he got a lump in his neck,
oh,
where initially you kind of had to press it down to feel it, but in a week's time, it was sitting like a golf ball on his neck. So
oh,
the itching that he was having was purely because of the chemical that the cancer cells release under your skin. So that's what was causing the itching. And all somebody needed to kind of think about was do a chest x-ray, and we would have known that he's having cancer. So that's when the 3 years of our fight and battle to survive, really, I can't even call it cancer. It was a battle to survive, because it was a very aggressive cancer. When he was diagnosed, it was already stage 4 in his bone marrow. So it was a very long and hard battle that each one of us had to fight within our own sort of space, and everything else that comes with fulfilling that role. So whether it was my in-laws, whether it was my parents, whether it was our siblings, whether Prashant himself, and in some ways, which probably Ishan didn't understand then, him as well.
right.
As a 1.5, 2 year, 2.5 year old child, he had his own battles to fight, because he couldn't understand what was happening. And
Wow.
then, by God's grace, we overcame that battle, and being the winners on the other side. And that's when we moved to Singapore for 7 years. And kind of life carried on normally, and touchwood, we've had a fulfilling life, and that is all in the past, and we can look back and say, all right, we survived.
But I am very interested to know, now that you speak about that time. When you think about that time now, what comes up first for you? The emotions, in terms of the emotions, the memories.
The memory is like it happened yesterday. And I guess it's a woman's memory. It is as clear as like yesterday. And there are few things that are so imprinted in my mind that I think it's gonna stay with me till the day I die. There was one instance where I clearly remember was the first talk of the C word that happened in the house was, you know, so after the chest X-ray that Prashant had, because the doctors in UK suspected he may have tuberculosis, so they
Oh,
sent him for an X-ray to see if it is indeed tuberculosis. Instead, it came back to say that it is cancer, and the doctor's note from the surgery came that can you go and see your GP on an urgent basis. And I don't know what happened, and he decided to go by himself. So he
oh,
went to the doctors on his own, where the doctor gave him the news that, look, son, you were suffering from cancer, and you got to get yourself through some chemotherapy and through some tough times, basically. He comes back home, and I remember in that the house in London that we have, it has two levels. So the dining room is what you kind of walk in, and 5 steps down is the living room. So my mom was there because I was still on. I had left my job, and I was kind of going to look for another one because
yeah.
Ishan was very young, and I was traveling too much with this job. So anyway, my mom and I are sitting, and Ishan is playing in the living room, and he comes back from his hospital appointment, and we look at him and say, "Okay, what did the doctor say?" And he's almost laughing and saying, "The doctor said I have cancer." I said, "Are you kidding me? You, how are you laughing and saying
Yeah.
such a serious thing? Ki I've got cancer." He says, "No," and exactly how I am saying, he was saying, "No, really, I've got cancer." I said, "Are you mad? You're laughing and telling me you got cancer. I mean, are you serious?" He says, "Yes, I'm absolutely serious. The doctor told me I've got cancer." And I think that one night, none of us slept. None of us slept because there were so many questions and possibilities that keep coming to your mind. What if this happens, and what if that happens? And that we were only 31. We were 31, and our son was 1.5 year old. You have your whole life ahead of you, and here is the first hurdle that comes in your life is the size of a meteorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just don't know what to think and what to feel and how to feel. And so that night was the toughest one. And then it was our holiday to India was planned a week later. So because both our fathers were doctors, we decided, okay, let's come to India and then have further tests and kind of do the staging, do the diagnosis of what kind of cancer he has, and let's start the treatment here in India, and then we will see. Because obviously you've got no support system in a
Yeah.
country like UK. You don't even have somebody who's going to come to clean your house, let alone all the other things you can think about. So that was the first time that that cancer he has cancer was kind of came to the front, and it was a tough night for all of us.
Yeah. And uh, how do you think that time shaped you? And how do you think it has shaped Ishan, even though he was so young?
I think um, for Ishan, I can't say it was a positive shaping at that moment,
Right.
because it made him go a little quiet, because he couldn't express anything he was feeling. Because what would happen is Prashant would go to the hospital, so 3 weeks, 4 weeks he's in hospital, and suddenly he comes back with no hair, no eyebrows, no eyelashes, and so it sounds like daddy but doesn't look like daddy. So
Right.
it just confuses as a child who's 2.5 years old, and this went on for 3 years. So it
Wow.
was it was a big part of his childhood, that that trauma we were dealing with. And for him, I'm glad he doesn't remember it. He
Hmm.
doesn't remember those times. He doesn't remember much about that time. It's only what we tell him now that he remembers. And I'm glad for it, because if he was a little older and he did remember everything, I can't say for sure that it would have shaped him in a manner that was going to bring the best out of him. It could have gone anywhere, because he did have, he would be, when we settled him in school, it took forever. He had, a lot of anxiety around separation with parents, and he became very quiet and withdrawn at that time. So I can't say that it shaped him for the good, but I think what shaped him better was when everything kind of normalized and we moved away from London and went to Singapore. That's when Ishan blossomed. You
Mm.
know, it's when he had that sense of normalcy, and like everything was normal, and we were doing what every family does. And I think that's where what defined him later. And I'm glad that that period does not define him,
Yeah.
because it was tough on Ishan, because as kids, they're not allowed in the ward where the
Yeah.
chemotherapy is going on. Only kids above 12 are allowed in the ward. So I always needed somebody to accompany me with Ishan, who would sit outside in the family ward with him while I go and see Prashant. Because while my in-laws would come to UK, there were various periods where we were on our own, because the visa requirements were such that they could only say 6 months of the year in UK, and 6 months just go by if you are in a 3 year battle. And so that's when we really heavily relied on friends. And as for me, you were asking how I felt and how it shaped me. I think you realize for yourself that you have a strength you never imagined you had. And I get asked this question a lot, that you must have been very brave, and how brave of you. And I say, what choice did I have?
Right.
You've got to put one foot in front of the other and carry on day to day, and week on week, because you've got a child who's looking at you for normalcy. You've got your in-laws who are watching their son go through this illness, and he's a doctor, so he knows exactly what can be the outcome if this does
Right.
not go our way. And then I have my parents who are sitting here in India, and my siblings and Prashant's siblings in India, who are helpless because they only hear what's happening. They cannot see him, they cannot be there for us. And that helplessness is, the single biggest factor that makes them really frustrated with the situation. So for me, it was no option. Everybody was looking at me for strength.
Yeah.
I had to be strong for Prashant so that he could focus on just getting better. I had to be strong for Ishan so he feels like everything is okay. I had to be strong for the rest of the family, that, we've got this, and that there is to hold on to faith, and, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and we'll get through this. So all those factors really didn't leave, or you kind of shut out what you're feeling.
Right.
That's the only way to cope. When you carrying the weight of everyone's responsibility on your shoulders, it's a lot of weight, and it tends to, you just I shouldn't say generalize it. I tend to internalize that, and just leave myself with those thoughts, and not let others know whether I'm anxious or if I'm afraid, or what I'm feeling, because I just feel like it's a burden that I'm adding to already a tense situation. I think the only time, through the journey, that Prashant and I had a very candid talk where Prashant said, okay, what if I don't make through this? Would you get married again? And I said, look, I don't want to, I can't say yes and no on such a question, hypothetical question for now. All I can say is that Ishan is very young, and I need you to be around him. So, we've got to do everything to fight this. And that's the only option. You have to fight till whatever shred of strength you have, because your family will need you. Your son is too young. I'm worried he'll never remember you.
Yeah.
So you've got to fight, because that's what you're fighting for, is you will not even be a memory for him, and I don't want that for my
Wow.
son. you know I will manage. I will have to carry on, and then we'll do what happens in the future. That's immaterial. But when I think of a 1.5-year-old child who, if he had to be without a father, then would not remember his father for sure.
Yeah.
So that was the time, only time when we had this, conversation around dying. Other than that, we have never let that thought creep into our head, because that, your mind does amazing things to your body, and that you don't even realize. And so that is really where, you've got to really find courage and strength. And I think it helps because we come from defense background, that you kind
Yeah.
of grown up in an environment which kind of promotes that kind of sort of personality of being brave and strong and courageous. So I think all of that that you grow up with kind of comes into play, and you really understand the metal of your own character, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So, and you know then that beyond this, you are ready to face whatever comes. And it gives you that strength and believe that you will face whatever life throws at you.
Yeah, yeah. Also, I'm also curious about your parenting journey through those years, Meghna. I'm just guessing that it would be more like a single parent than, both of you parenting together, and such heavy times, and
Yeah.
while you had to keep things gentle and safe for the little Ishan. How was that? How were you managing both at emotional level and also on the logistical level? Because you said you were alone.
So I think that on an emotional level, I always made sure that Ishan never felt, never saw me cry, never saw us upset, including my in-laws. We never ever had any conversation around anything that was negative to Prashant. Maybe the hardest times, but we never let him feel. It was always business as usual when it comes to Ishan growing up during those times. I think we spent 3 months of Prashant's initial treatment of 3 months started here in India. So
Okay.
he had, grandparents. He had my siblings, cousins. There was a little bit of support system. I think that we felt that part more when we went back to London to carry on the rest of the treatment. And at that time, I think it was important for, whenever my in laws were there and when I was alone, to keep things as normal at home as possible. But something, Neha, that I always look back and I remember, people record milestones of their kids.
Yeah.
Okay, smile today. I don't have any memory of that. I don't have any memory of any of his milestones. And that's the most bad that I feel about that, as a parent, I can't go back and think of milestones because I just do not remember any milestones of Ishan, because he kind of, his growing up years kind of faded into the background a little
Yeah.
because Ishan's health took priority and the logistics took priority. Going to the hospital. So when my father-in-law and mother-in-law were there, we would take turns and we would go to the hospital, and the house needs to be cleaned, the cooking needs to be done, the groceries need to be shopped. So you get caught up in those
Yeah.
things. But I made sure that I had quality time with Ishan beyond just these logistics, because that was the only way that he would feel secure.
Yeah.
We had to, at that time, the insecurity level was so high that we had to do everything to make sure Ishan is secure.
Yeah.
And at that time, even Ishan's school was amazing. They knew what was happening at home, and so it was a little school close to home, and they did an amazing job with Ishan to kind of look after his emotional and mental well-being at school, and that really, that understanding from them and the friends and family really made a difference. That at that time, when I couldn't be, even though I was feeling like a single parent, even in a single parent, I wasn't 100%, you
Yeah.
know because you are kind of split in so many parts that you were probably giving 30-40% of yourself to your child, and you can't help it. The situation is such that there is very little you can do to control that part, and you can't really beat yourself down कि अच्छा मुझे ऐसा करना चाहिए था for my child, वैसा करना चाहिए था. You just cannot go back, and you cannot think like that, because you really are trying to get through day by day. So I never beat myself down कि अच्छा मैंने आज ऐसा नहीं करा, मैं उसको पार्क नहीं लेके गई, मैंने उसको कोई क्लासेस में नहीं डाला. I never put that kind of pressure on myself. And sometimes to go through these, you have to be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
That is such an important thing. You have to be kind to yourself and remember that you did the best you can given the circumstances.
Yeah.
And wasn't more that you could have done without being burnt out.
Yes. Yes.
So
You
in my
did that much. That's, I mean, that is also something, no? You, with all that happening, you could give the quality time. You could ensure that, life went on as usual.
And I think that is the important part, that people forget, to be kind to themselves in hard circumstances. We all strive to be 100% at work, 100% at home, 100% for kids, but you just can't, because that, you're forgetting that 100% is you as well. And then what happens to you when you give everything and you're just giving, giving, giving? You will burn out.
Yeah.
So that's what I felt like I did whatever I could best at that time. And I regret that I don't remember these milestones of Ishan growing up, but I'm not going to beat myself about it, because you know what, there'll be other milestones to celebrate that we will do together as three of us as a family and extended family. So you know what, it's a small price to pay. When he laughed for the first time, when he started walking, or when he said the first words, it's going to just fade in the shadow at the end, and you will have more new memories to create, and I'm going to be happy with that.
And I'd love to know more about Ishan, Meghna. What's he like? What stage
Oh,
of life he's in? And what makes you light up when you talk about him?
he's just, I mean, if I can, my saying anything about him is going to sound biased, but he's always been a joy. He's always been a joy because he's undemanding. He is mature for his age. He's, the most gentle, the most kind boy that you will come across. He'll be if his friends are hurt, he'll be the first one to pick them up. And he's that kind of personality. You will never hear a bad thing about anybody from him. You will never hear that he started a fight or he hit someone, for that matter. And he won't be that aggressive boy teenager that you kind of associate growing boys growing up to be. And he's diligent, he is disciplined, he is organized, he is helpful. I mean, the amount of work around the house that he does for me, I say, Prashant, I have to babysit you more than I have to do my child. And he is going to turn 19 in July. And when he was finishing school last year, so our conversation was around what do you want to do, and career and university. And he said, you know what, I want to do hospitality as well, like both of you. And we said, look, by all means, but you do work in a hotel. You go work in a hotel, because by staying in a hotel, you're not going to get that idea whether you like hotels, because it's very different things, staying in a hotel as a guest and working in a hotel as a guest. And so he did 2.5 weeks in one of the hotels that Prashant works for. And he loved it. And so he said, you know what, just go ahead. So he's studying at Indian School of Hospitality in Manesar, studying hospitality management. He's doing a BBA in hospitality. And in fact, in July, he's going to come up with for his internship in a hotel. So,
Wow.
for 5 months, 5.5 months, he's going to work in a hotel full time. So it's going to be an interesting journey. But he's a very gentle, soft spoken guy who's, has a kind word to say about everyone. And you know, at the end, I think that what he's, everybody tells me that he's such a lovely boy, and he is what he sees, and I think that's what it is. It's not about what you teach your child, but what you show by example that shapes, you know, the child. And while everybody tries to give us credit for how he's turned out, but sometimes I feel like you can't really take credit altogether, because there is an inherent nature of a child.
Yeah.
Like you cannot force an unorganized or a indisciplined child. Similarly, you can't do otherwise. Somebody who's authentically disciplined and has drive, you can't undo that. We always say, ईशान थोड़ा सा बिगड़ जाना, आने दो, स्कूल से कंप्लेन आने दो, कॉलेज से कंप्लेन दो, आने बात है, आने दो, इट्स ओके.
That's such a nice thing to say, to be able to say.
Yes, trust me. I'm happy that this way. कि मैं उसको बोल रही हूँ कि कंप्लेन आने दो.
and you parented across countries, London, Singapore, then India. How has it been seeing the parenting culture across countries in each place, and then kind of adapting, kind of creating your own culture? How has
Yeah.
it been?
So I think, I would like to call ourselves global citizens, because we've lived outside for a long time. I think it was almost 20 years. And till Ishan came to study and live in Gurgaon in 2020, he'd never lived in India. India was only a place of holiday. And so, his experience of India was through a different lens. And right now, when he started going to school here, it was quite different. So, what he knew from childhood was UK. And sometimes you will realize that when you live abroad, you have to adapt to some of that culture, because, like if there are certain things that are done in a certain manner because the friends follow that, they tend to feel more inclusive when you follow some of the same things. So while we celebrated Diwali, we also did a little decoration for Christmas, because then everybody else has that, and he doesn't want to the kids don't understand why we don't have Christmas
Yeah.
decorations.
Yeah.
And then we always said, and because we grew up in the army, we celebrated all festivals, and we've kind of maintained that we've tried to give him a global vision of what culture and life, and so we've never tried to hold on to everything that was only Indian. You take best of each culture and you go along. So something like, when Ishan was born, and the midwife said, by till the child is like 1 year old, don't give him salt, sugar,
Yeah.
and uh, and then that's kind of, if you grew up in India, you would never have that. The number of times that I would get, my God, you're not giving him salt. How will he
Yeah.
taste it? He doesn't know.
Yeah.
He doesn't know. So it's okay. So, you kind of have to be the judge and decide what bits of the other culture that you are living in that you want to take. Or the simple facts, sleeping at a certain time.
Yeah.
We tend to, in India, our kids kind of decide when they want to sleep, and we don't kind of, till the kids don't go to school, we let them follow whatever routine they want to. But it's not the case outside, because, kids are going to daycare because parents are working. They need to sleep at a certain time because the household has to get ready at a certain time. So we've maintained some of that discipline part of it. And
Mm.
when you go to Singapore again, he was thrown in an Asian culture where there's a lot of similar things to India as well. And how the Chinese culture goes, there is some bit of similarities between India and China. So him seeing Chinese New Year, seeing the lion dance for the first time, those are experiences that are invaluable and immeasurable. And then that's what our takeaways. We travel so much during our time in Singapore, and that really kind of broadens your horizon and opens up your mind to different cultures, and you become a sponge who's learning from everyone. And that's really what we wanted to do, is that the idea of living abroad, and when you are in this thrown in these different cultures, is you got to be a sponge and pick up, the nuances that really make a culture rich, and absorb it, because
Yeah.
it makes you grow as a person as well. And that's what we try to do.
Yeah. And what made you, come back to India? And how was it for Ishan? Because, I mean, adjustment is tough at any age, but especially for a teenager who's never lived in India.
Coming back to India. So Prashant found a job, and and then it required us to move to Gurgaon. So and then we had been out of India for nearly 20 years, and it
Yeah.
just felt the right time to come to India. And we knew that if we didn't move by 2020, we can't move, because then Ishan will enter the last 4 years of school, which ideally should be in one place. So when we came, it was tough for him to settle, because he's like, the first reaction was, "Mom, the names are so hard here." And that's the, you never think about that. You see, for you,
Yeah.
you've grown up in India, you've studied in India, you're just used to these Sanskrit names. But then you see from his point of view, from a Tommy, Danny, Rob, those names, you are in, Sanskrit names, Arhan, Ahan, or take all those
Yeah.
complicated names. And he's like, "Mom, the names are so hard." And I was like, "You know what, Ishan, I get it." But then I think there was a little bit of, like, I won't say hardcore bullying, but some bit of, when you're a new kid on the block, because he's Indian, but he has a British accent, so he always gets picked up, because of that, why do you have this accent, kind of thing. So but I think that having the lockdown, and then being at home and going to school through virtually, and having that time together as a family, kind of helped him ease into the life in Gurgaon.
Yeah.
And then when everybody did go back to school, it was like almost everybody's first day at school.
Yeah.
It kind of leveled the playing field for him. He was no more the new kid. The sections had shuffled, and all of that happened, and they were entering into grade 10, which had the board exams. Um, and then he kind of found his own, and felt like he fit in, or he found his feet, and he was fine. But yeah, there was a little bit of adjustment, which luckily the lockdown had brought many negative things with it, but I think it got that positive thing for us, where we got a lot of family time.
Yeah. Yeah. And Meghna, I want to talk about you now. Where are you now, emotionally, personally, professionally, in this chapter of motherhood?
So, I consciously made a choice to step out of hotels once, the COVID was over. And, I was, because I never had a chance to look for work when we moved
Yeah.
from Singapore. We came so quickly into the lockdown that I never got that chance. And so, when I did, when I was looking to go back to work, I knew that Ishan was in a stage where he needed, me,
Yeah.
because I'm not going to teach him. I'm not going to sit and make him study, but he
Yeah.
needs that emotional and physical well-being. Okay, have you eaten? Do you need anything while you're studying? How are you feeling? Are you nervous? Are you kind of feeling ready for the exams? And there are so many exams and so many uncertainties at that time, that I felt I had to be present for him during that time. So I made the choice to kind of take a step back and go into a role that didn't require so much of my time at work. If I had gone back to hotels, it would have been back to that grind where it's long hours, possibly doing weekends. So I wanted to take up a job that would give me that weekends off, public holidays off, and then give me a little bit of work-life balance. And that's when I decided to move into the FMCG, space, as admin and facilities manager for my company. And you know. I enjoy what I'm doing because I do it for the joy of working. I haven't been that. I always allowed my career to be at the back burner because I felt like um, Prashant's career and job were demanding as is. And, then to add another hotelier in the mix would really make us absent parents, not just no work life balance. I think it would make us absent parents. And I didn't want that for Ishan. It was bad enough that I always joke with Prashant, you've seen our son growing up lying down, you know. So, it would have added two of us in that mix. And I didn't want him to go only around helpers and or call grandparents and say, now you raise our kid. I was very conscious of that fact that I had my mother growing up around us, and I want to be that parent who is around and available for our son. So, work wise, I want to work for the joy of working, and I enjoy what I do, and I put myself into whatever I will choose to do or whatever I've chose to do so far. So, it's fulfilling for me that I am defined by beyond being a mother and a wife.
Yeah.
And that's important to me to have my independence, financial and otherwise. And so that was the important part for me. As far as personally it goes, I think my life experiences and age. My husband and I are celebrating our 50th birthdays this year.
Wow.
So yeah, we have our milestone birthdays coming up, and I feel like I have become that person who does things for myself.
Yeah.
I don't do it to please the world. I don't do even to please my son or my husband. I will do, what makes me happy and what I feel is important for me to do for myself. As much uh, as women and as a mother and a wife, I do things for family and I do things for Ishan and Prashant and probably parents. But I also take a little time to do something for myself or keep, do things that make me happy.
Yeah.
And I think, I've always consciously tried not to lose my identity at any
Yeah.
point. and
Yeah.
and, and that's really been that I'm very content in my and I'm very happy in my own skin. I don't I don't judge myself, and I'm not critical of myself. I'm a little more forgiving with age, and the fact that now that I'm in that menopause stage, I think I'm a little more forgiving to myself. And really that's the mantra that it's very easy to critique yourself and be your biggest critic, but it's that much harder to be kind to yourself. You can be kind to the world, but you're not kind to yourself or your body, or listen to your body, and you have this, oh my God, I didn't do my 10,000 steps. Oh my God, I didn't drink those 3 liters of water. Oh my God, I'm not having those superfoods, or oh my God, I need to lose 5 pounds. I don't put that pressure on myself. I always say balanced life in any regard is what you is sustainable. So
Has
that's what,
is this always been you, or is it like some
there is a little bit of taught. You have to teach yourself this. I can't say that it's always been like that. There are times when you are sort of you feel you're not your best version. But I think as as I have kind of moved in the world through different countries, I've realized that, and by looking at different people, a range of people, I kind of tell myself I'm good enough.
yeah,
I'm good enough. And, there are a lot of people who would given an arm and a leg to be in my life
yeah,
and in my position, or even us as a family in our position, that so many people don't survive the disease that my husband has managed to survive and come out successful on the other end. Those life experiences have taught me that I am enough, and I am work So a little bit is taught and a little bit is inherently, that I don't care about what the world asks me to do, and I can't be asked to do something. That's the Sagittarian in me, is that stubbornness, that I will do what I feel is right and what allows me to sleep at night. So yeah.
And what does an ordinary day in your life look like these days?
Since I work from the office, today is one of those unusual days that I'm working from home, but I usually don't work from home. So we have an early start of the day, and because through school that's always been the pattern, and it hasn't changed much even through college. Ishan does have early starts even now. And so I tend to take out time to go for a walk in the morning before I come. Then we do breakfast, get ready, and as time, maybe my son will leave first, or my son and I will leave first, and then my husband, if he's not traveling, then he's generally the last one to leave the house. And so we try to have breakfast together if it's possible. And um, I sort of Ishan and I kind of come back almost at the same time, between like 5:30, and then the day goes in kind of dinner, preps for dinner, having a little chit chat about each other's day. And if Prashant comes home on time and we go out for a walk, then it would be that. Otherwise, it'll be planning for something that's upcoming. So the evenings are a little relaxed at home. And that, since Ishan is in college, there aren't those activities that you have to drive him around. So it's a little more relaxed life for us, in terms of having a grown-up child who can chauffeur himself wherever needs is required. So and we are kind of preparing to be empty nesters, really,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
another few years, and it would happen, that Ishan will have his own life. And we it'll मैं बोलती रहती हूँ, it'll be only तुम और मैं बुड्ढा बुड्ढी रह जाएंगे घर में.
But
And
a new start, maybe.
yes, a new start. And Prashant keeps saying, maybe we should have a pet. I said, you know what, Prashant, till you don't retire, I don't want to be responsible for any living creature, whether it's a pet who does not grow up, or even if it's a plant. I've raised a child, and that's that. I don't want to be responsible for any living thing anymore.
I think that's a sentient call.
So yeah, and then since our family is in all our family is in Pune, so we try to plan trips to see them and try to go for holidays, which has been a bit difficult this year. Somehow, the three of us, we've not been able to manage our calendars to synchronize and have a week where we can go away. But we're working towards that.
I also want to know, I mean, taking you back to the initial days of your parenting, you mentioned that while in India there was a support system in terms of, there is an ecosystem in place. But when you were in London, especially going through the treatment, what does your support system look like? Who or what has helped you feel held in your journey through this time?
Definitely family and friends. I've relied so heavily on family and friends. My father in law gave up his job. He'd already retired from the Air Force, but then he was working for another hospital, and he decided to give that up and spend 6 months of the year for the next 3 years with us in London. So they were definitely a big, big help. And we have an amazing set of friends in London, and we were lucky that we had many of them. So I can't tell you the amount that friends have helped me to babysit, to come build my furniture when I needed something, to just give me company. uh, you know uh, and then Prashant's work colleagues were amazing through this journey in London. They would bring him food baskets to the hospital, not just for him, for the nurses as well. When it was Mother's Day, they would send a hamper to me at home. So And then while Prashant was in the hospital, they made such a lovely scrapbook for him
Wow.
where there were pictures of everyone that he worked with, and they had all signed a message for him. And so, the really the generosity of our friends and people around us and our work colleagues, what really supported us, that they have been there with us through thick and thin, whatever we needed. And the amazing set of doctors, both in London and here, we couldn't have done it without them. They're just and the nurses, who were looking after Prashant at the hospital, that allowed me to sleep easy because I know that he was well looked after. It everything helps, every little helps at that time.
Yeah, yeah. And also in your parenting journey, now that we are looking back, can you think of a moment when you felt maybe completely overwhelmed as a parent and a parent, singular parent, and how did you get through it?
I remember this instance, and it wasn't so much as being a single parent kind of overwhelming. It was another, you know, it was that when your life struggle that you're going through at that point, it hits home. So
Yeah,
Prashant had a autologous transplant. So what happens is when you kind of when the cancer is in the bone marrow, you tend to, the first instance, the doctor takes your own cells from your body and try
yeah,
to, almost like if your laptop froze and you do a long hard press to reboot it. It was almost like a reboot of your frozen screen. And that is a very tough treatment because they have to really kill all your blood cells in order for that reboot to happen. And so after 4 weeks of going through that horrendous treatment, Prashant came home, and Ishan was sleeping at that time. So, and it had already been 4 weeks that he'd not seen Ishan. So I went up to bring Ishan down, who had just woken up, and he was on my hip. And Prashant was sitting, and my father-in-law was sitting, and I was standing in front of Prashant. And then Prashant kind of called out to Ishan that, "Hi, Ishan," and Ishan just turned his head and hid in his face in my neck, because at that time, in that 4 weeks, Prashant had lost his hair, his eyebrows, eyelashes. He had almost changed color because some of those drugs have a little color in it, and he was almost like lobster red, if you like, and he just hid his head in my neck as if he was meeting a stranger. And
yeah,
then, as Prashant spoke more, he realized it was Prashant. But that really is the moment where really my heart broke that day. It was close to Ishan's third birthday when this happened. And I think it really hit us home of all the dramatic changes that we've had in our life,
yeah,
where Ishan could not recognize Prashant in that instance.
yeah.
So yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah. And on the flip side, is there a small, maybe forgettable on the surface moment that felt like magic?
you know one of Prashant was still going through his treatment, but that magical moment came, but it didn't last, however.
Mm.
But it came when Prashant, for the first after the first 6 months of chemo, he was given the all clear.
Ah,
It was a temporary happiness, but the joy of being given an all clear after 6 months, that means 12 rounds of chemotherapy, was amazing. And then we came to India for a holiday, and
yeah,
we sat in a barbecue with the doctors here who were treating him. And that really was precious, because we didn't know then that we had 2 years more of struggle to come. But that was a great joy when he was given the all clear. And I think the second other joyous moment was when we found a donor, because Prashant went through a unrelated donor transplant. So the doctors had to find a unrelated 100% match donor, and the day that was found was another day we felt like, okay, oh, we got this, so we can get through this.
yeah. Yeah. Oh God. This conversation has been a series of bumps, and but I'm getting goosebumps. I'm forgetting my lines. But let me ask you one more reflective question. If you could sit across your pre-parent self just before you became a mother, what would you say to her?
I would say good on you that you took the time. We took 8 years after our marriage to have Ishan.
Yeah.
And I would say good on you to take that decision to wait. Because I think that, you need to plan parenthood
Yeah.
when you're ready. Because had I been in India, 1 year into the marriage, we would have been asked that question: "Oh, when are you having a child? When are you having a child?" And so, I would tell our pre-parent selves that good on you that you waited, that you secured, a house in London before you went in for a child, because you see, what we went through would have been tougher without it.
Right.
And the fact that it was going to be 3 years
Yeah.
is an enormity, that does not you don't realize until you sit back and look back. And so I would say good on you that you waited for 8 years before you had Ishan. You secured your, you had secured jobs. You had spent enough time in those jobs that they supported us through that illness, and that you secured a house before you had him. Had Ishan. So, yeah, that's what I would say. And um, I would also say that everything that you've learned so far is going to be tested. In different ways. Every life experience, every sort of battle wound that life gives you, everything comes into play.
Yeah.
In your life journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's so good to hear. But my last question to you for today, Meghna, what do you hope Ishan takes with him from all that he's seen and lived with you?
I hope that Shan, always sees the glass as half full. I hope that Ishan always has faith that, we have his back. That Ishan treasures his friendships, chooses his friends wisely. That he stays ambitious, because in today's world, it's very easy for kids like Ishan, who are single child coming from a place of privilege, to not be ambitious.
Yeah,
And I would ask him to be the kind self, that he's not let world remove some of that shine, or tell him that it's not cool to be kind. And be generous and graceful. I would hope that being a good human being above everything else should matter.
yeah. Has anyone ever told you that you are very poetic in your articulation?
Not really, probably because I'm not in a profession where I need to talk so much about myself.
But I really, really feel so. You talk so beautifully. You choose words with such thought and care, and it's a pleasure listening to you.
Thank
So
you, Nia. No, but I'm really happy that we got to do this, and it's sometimes nice to, even it gives conversations like this make you reflect on your life, which you don't really do that often.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah, so,
Meghna,
no,
thank you for showing up with such honesty and warmth. What you've shared today is the kind of quiet strength that often doesn't get spoken about enough. The way we keep going even when the ground shakes beneath us. And your story, I think, is a reminder that there is no one way to be a good parent, but there is so much grace in trying, adapting, and staying open. Thank
mm,
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Neha. I really appreciate the chance to have this conversation with you. And I hope that whoever listens to this can take something away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. To our listeners, thank you as always for being here. If this conversation stayed with you, please do take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, or share this episode with someone you love. That's how we grow this circle of shared stories. This has been Parenthood, and I'm Neha, holding space for the real and the raw, one story at a time. See you next week.